God, give me your strength to conquer my bad thoughts. Your mind has been carrying conversations you never agreed to have. Thoughts arrive without permission, speak with confidence, and leave before you can answer back. Yet their echo stays. You believe in God, you know His name, you know His promises, but inside your head there is tension, noise, pressure. You smile, you function, you keep going, but internally you feel divided. One part of you trusts God, another part of you is constantly bracing for something to go wrong. That internal contradiction drains strength faster than any external problem. Many people do not lose faith because they stop believing. They lose strength because they fight their thoughts alone. You wake up tired not because your body did not rest, but because your mind never stopped working. Fear rehearses the future, guilt replays the past. Anxiety keeps asking questions that never lead to answers. And you wonder why peace feels distant even when you pray. Listen carefully. Nothing is wrong with you. You are not spiritually broken. You are not failing God. You are experiencing what happens when the mind becomes a battlefield instead of a place of rest. I see how hard you try to stay strong. I see the discipline, the effort, the silence you keep so others do not worry. But strength was never meant to be extracted from pressure. Strength was never meant to be sustained by pretending. You were not created to overpower your thoughts through force. You were created to receive strength from me, not after you fix yourself, not after you calm everything down, right here in the middle of the noise. This moment matters because awareness changes everything. The moment you stop running from what is happening inside you, light enters. And when light enters, confusion loses authority. I am not asking you to deny your thoughts. I'm asking you to stop letting them define you. Stay present, stay open. What you are about to hear is not information. It is alignment. Something in you is about to remember where real strength comes from. And once that happens, the battle in your mind will no longer control the direction of your life, when your mind becomes louder than your faith. There is a quiet frustration that forms when your mind starts speaking louder than your faith. You still believe in me, but your thoughts interrupt that belief before it can settle in your heart. Fear answers faster than trust. Doubt reacts before peace has time to breathe. You know what is true, yet you feel controlled by what feels urgent inside your head. This is not hypocrisy. This is overload. Faith does not disappear when the mind gets loud. It gets crowded out. And when that happens, many people turn against themselves. They say they should be stronger, calmer, more confident by now. That inner accusation only adds weight to an already exhausted mind. Your mind was never designed to lead your life. It was designed to process, not to rule. When it takes control, it starts interpreting reality without truth. It magnifies threats, minimizes hope, and filters everything through fear or shame. You start measuring your spiritual life by how calm you feel instead of by who you trust. This is why even faithful people feel unstable. The issue is not lack of belief. The issue is misplaced authority. When thoughts are allowed to dominate, faith becomes reactive instead of rooted. You find yourself praying from panic instead of trust, asking me to fix what you believe is already out of control. I want you to understand something deeply. Loud thoughts do not mean weak faith. They mean your mind has been under pressure for too long without rest. You have been carrying concerns you were never meant to carry alone. When thoughts are loud, they demand immediate attention. They speak in urgency. Faith speaks in assurance. If you are constantly responding to urgency, assurance will feel distant. This is why you feel pulled in different directions internally. Your spirit knows me, but your mind keeps scanning for danger. That tension is exhausting, and exhaustion makes everything feel heavier than it is. This is the turning point. The moment you notice that your mind has become louder than your faith is not a moment of failure. It is a moment of clarity. Awareness is the first form of strength returning. You cannot realign what you do not recognize. I am not disappointed in you for feeling this way. I'm inviting you to stop letting your thoughts sit on the throne of your inner life. Faith does not need to shout. It needs space. And space begins the moment you decide that your thoughts are not the highest authority in your life anymore. Stay with me. What comes next will show you why the fight you have been having was never meant to be fought the way you have been fighting it. The hidden cost of entertaining negative thoughts. Negative thoughts rarely arrive announcing their damage. They come quietly, disguised as logic, caution, or realism. At first, they seem harmless, even useful. You tell yourself you are just being careful, just thinking ahead, just protecting yourself. But over time, these thoughts begin to settle. They repeat, they build patterns, and without noticing, you start living from conclusions that were never meant to guide your life. This is the hidden cost. Thoughts you entertain eventually start shaping how you feel, how you react, and how you see me. Every thought you allow to stay too long begins to train your emotional responses. Fear taught repeatedly becomes anxiety. Suspicion rehearsed becomes distrust. Self-criticism repeated becomes identity. You do not wake up one day overwhelmed out of nowhere. You arrive there gradually, one unchecked thought at a time. The danger is not the thought itself. The danger is agreement. The moment you stop questioning a negative thought, it stops being a visitor and starts becoming a voice you obey. That is how peace erodes quietly, without alarms. I want you to notice how negative thoughts drain energy even when nothing is happening externally. You can be sitting still and feel exhausted. Your body is resting, but your mind is running scenarios, arguments, regrets, and imagined outcomes. This constant interactivity steals emotional strength and spiritual sensitivity. When the mind is overcrowded, it becomes harder to hear me. Not because I stop speaking, but because your attention is divided. You start reacting more than discerning. And reaction always costs more energy than trust. There is also a spiritual cost that many do not realize. Negative thoughts distort perception. They do not just affect how you see yourself, they affect how you interpret my intentions. You start questioning timing, motives, and promises. You read situations through fear instead of faith. This creates distance, not because I move away, but because trust weakens when the mind keeps feeding doubt. The enemy does not need to destroy faith directly. He only needs to exhaust the mind long enough for you to feel disconnected. Here is the truth I want you to hear clearly. You are not responsible for every thought that enters your mind, but you are responsible for what you allow to stay. Strength does not begin by trying to silence everything at once. It begins by recognizing what is costing you peace. Awareness interrupts patterns. The moment you realize that entertaining certain thoughts is draining your life, you gain the power to stop feeding them. This is not about control. It is about discernment. And discernment grows when you slow down long enough to notice what your mind has been consuming. Why fighting your thoughts often makes them stronger. You have been taught to fight your thoughts, to resist them, to argue back, to push harder when your mind turns against you. And yet, the more you fight, the more tired you become. This is not because you lack discipline or faith. It is because force was never the strategy that brings freedom to the mind. When you fight a thought aggressively, you give it attention. And attention is fuel. The mind interprets resistance as importance. What you try to suppress often returns louder, faster, and more convincing. Think about how exhausting it feels to constantly correct yourself internally. You tell yourself to stop thinking that way, to calm down, to trust more, to let go. But the effort itself keeps you locked in the same loop. The mind stays activated, alert, defensive. You remain in survival mode. Fighting thoughts keeps your nervous system tense. and tension is not where clarity lives. This is why after trying so hard to control your mind, you still feel restless. The battle never ends because the battlefield never closes. I want you to see something clearly. Thoughts are not defeated by confrontation. They lose power when they are no longer central. The more you wrestle with them, the more space they occupy. This is why arguing with fear does not bring peace. Fear does not respond to logic when it is fueled by emotion. The mind does not calm down because you demand it to. It calms down when it feels safe enough to release control. And safety does not come from force. It comes from trust. Many people mistake mental strength for mental dominance. They believe strength means overpowering every unwanted thought. But real strength looks different. It looks like not needing to respond to every mental noise. It looks like letting thoughts pass without granting them authority. When you stop reacting, you stop reinforcing the pattern. This is not passivity. This is wisdom. Reaction keeps you stuck. Awareness sets you free. There is a reason why peace has felt so distant even when you pray. You have been praying while still fighting internally. You ask me for calm while your mind is bracing for impact. That inner contradiction keeps the tension alive. I am not asking you to surrender by giving up. I am asking you to surrender by releasing control. You do not need to win arguments in your head. You need to stop letting those arguments define your state of being. This is where my strength begins to work differently than yours. Human strength pushes, divine strength grounds. Human effort tries to silence the storm. My presence settles it. When you stop fighting your thoughts, you create space for something deeper to take over. You do not lose control, you gain alignment. And alignment is what brings lasting peace. The difference between your thoughts and your true self. There is a line that must be clearly drawn if you want freedom in your mind. You are not your thoughts. You experience them, you hear them, you feel their impact, but they are not you. Many people suffer not because of the thoughts themselves, but because they confuse those thoughts with identity. When a negative idea appears, it feels personal. It feels like a revelation about who you are, what you are capable of, or what your future will be. That confusion creates shame, and shame tightens the grip of the mind even more. I want you to listen closely. A thought can pass through you without belonging to you. The mind produces content constantly, influenced by memory, emotion, fear, and environment. That does not mean every thought carries truth or authority. When you begin to believe that every thought reflects your character, your faith, or your destiny, you place a heavy burden on yourself. You start judging your spiritual life by mental activity instead of by your connection with me. That is a mistake that drains strength quickly. Your true self is deeper than your thoughts. It is the part of you that can observe them without becoming them. It is the part of you that still seeks me even when your mind feels chaotic. That part of you has not disappeared, no matter how loud the noise has been. The enemy wants you to believe that your thoughts define you because identity confusion weakens discernment. When you think you are your thoughts, you stop questioning them. You accept them as facts instead of signals. This is why clarity begins when you separate observation from identification. You can notice a thought without agreeing with it. You can feel an emotion without letting it dictate your actions. This separation restores dignity. It reminds you that struggling mentally does not mean you are spiritually failing. It means you are human and in need of grounding. And grounding does not come from self-judgment. It comes from truth. I am not disappointed in you for the thoughts you have had. I see beyond them. I see the part of you that still desires peace, still reaches for hope, still listens even when everything feels unstable. That is your true self. That is where my strength connects with you. When you stop condemning yourself for what passes through your mind, you create room for healing. Condemnation tightens the knot. Compassion loosens it. The moment you understand that your thoughts are not your identity, something shifts. The mind loses its power to define you. Fear loses its authority to name you. Shame loses its ability to trap you. You begin to stand on truth instead of mental noise. And when identity is restored, strength follows naturally. You stop fighting yourself. You start standing with me. The exact point where human strength reaches its limit. There is a moment that comes quietly, often without warning, when you realize you cannot keep holding everything together. You have tried discipline, prayer, silence, effort, distraction, reasoning. You have pushed yourself to stay composed, faithful, productive, hopeful, and then something inside you gives way. Not loudly, not dramatically. It feels more like emptiness, like the strength you relied on is no longer available. This moment scares many people because they interpret it as failure. But this moment is not collapse, it is exposure. It reveals the limits of human strength, not to shame you, but to free you. Human strength always runs on effort. It depends on control, endurance, resistance. It works until it does not. When you reach its limit, the mind panics because it has been trained to believe that stopping means losing everything. That is why you feel guilt when you rest, fear when you slow down, and anxiety when you cannot fix what is happening inside you. You have been carrying expectations that were never meant to sit on your shoulders. You were not created to be your own source of stability. This breaking point is sacred, even if it does not feel that way. It is the place where illusion falls apart. The illusion that you must be strong all the time. The illusion that control equals safety. The illusion that faith means never feeling overwhelmed. When those illusions collapse, truth has space to enter, and truth says that my strength does not compete with yours. It begins where yours ends. Many people resist this moment. They rush to numb it, distract themselves, or rebuild control as fast as possible. They never stay long enough to receive what this moment offers. But if you remain here, something shifts. The pressure to perform fades. The need to prove yourself weakens. You stop asking how to fix everything and start asking how to be held. That question opens a door human effort could never unlock. This is why I do not rescue you from exhaustion immediately. Exhaustion teaches you honesty. It strips away pretense. It reveals where you have been surviving instead of trusting. When you finally admit you cannot do this alone, strength does not disappear. It changes source. It stops coming from effort and starts coming from relationship. From presence, from surrender. Do not fear this limit. Do not judge yourself for reaching it. This is not where you fall apart. This is where you are finally positioned to receive strength that does not drain you. Strength that steadies instead of pressures. Strength that restores instead of demands. Stay here with me. The next step will show you what it truly means to ask for strength in a way that actually transforms you. What it really means to ask God for strength. Most people ask me for strength while still trying to hold everything together themselves. The words sound sincere, but underneath them there is tension. The request is not really for strength, it is for control to return. This is why many prayers feel unanswered. Not because I am absent, but because the heart is divided. One hand reaches for me, the other clings tightly to fear, to self-protection, to the need to manage outcomes. True strength does not enter a divided space. When you ask me for strength, I am not looking for perfect words or spiritual performance. I am listening for honesty. Strength is not released when you sound faithful. It is released when you are real, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop defending why you feel the way you feel, when you come to me without strategy, without rehearsed phrases, without trying to appear strong. The prayer that opens the door is simple. I cannot do this alone. That sentence carries more power than hours of forced confidence. Many people misunderstand what they are asking for. They believe strength means energy, motivation, or emotional intensity. But my strength does not arrive as adrenaline. It arrives as grounding. It steadies you before it empowers you. It quiets the inner pressure before it changes the outer circumstances. This is why you may feel calmer before you feel stronger. Peace is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of trust. And trust is the environment where my strength moves freely. To ask for strength is to give me permission to lead where you have been forcing direction. It is a surrender of timelines, outcomes, and self-expectations. That surrender is not weakness. It is alignment. When you stop telling me how to fix things, you allow me to do what only I can do. Strength does not always change the situation immediately. Sometimes it changes how deeply the situation can touch you, and that change is often the breakthrough you actually need. I know you want relief. I know you want the noise to stop, the thoughts to calm, the pressure to lift. But listen carefully. If I removed the struggle without reshaping the source, it would return. So I begin deeper. I strengthen the part of you that no storm can dominate. I anchor you. I restore perspective. I remind your nervous system that it is safe to let go. That is real strength, strength that does not depend on circumstances behaving. When you ask me for strength this way, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop bracing. You stop preparing for impact. You stop scanning for what could go wrong. And in that release, your mind becomes receptive. This is where transformation begins, not with force, but with trust. Stay open. What comes next will help you recognize how my strength enters you before your thoughts even begin to change. How God's strength enters the mind before it changes. Thoughts. Most people expect strength to arrive by removing the thoughts immediately. They believe that if I am truly working, the noise should stop, the fear should vanish, and clarity should appear all at once. But that is not how my strength moves. I do not begin by silencing the mind. I begin by stabilizing the ground beneath it. Before thoughts change, something deeper shifts. Your inner state softens. The tension you have been carrying loosens. You may not even notice it at first, but the urgency fades. The pressure to react weakens, and that is how you know strength has entered. My strength does not rush the mind. It reassures it. The mind has been loud because it has been trying to protect you. It learned to stay alert, to anticipate danger, to stay ahead of pain. When strength enters, the mind no longer feels responsible for your survival. It begins to rest. Thoughts may still come, but they no longer carry the same weight. They no longer demand immediate action. You start observing instead of reacting. That shift is not small, it is foundational. This is why peace often arrives quietly, not as a dramatic moment, but as a subtle sense of grounding. You breathe a little deeper. Your body feels less tense. The inner dialogue slows down without being forced. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. Strength does not overpower the mind. It reassures it that it is no longer alone. And when the mind feels supported, it stops shouting. Do not confuse this stage with stagnation. Nothing is wrong if your thoughts are still present. Change is already happening. I am teaching your mind a new response. Instead of panic, presence. Instead of urgency, trust. Instead of control, surrender. These patterns take root beneath the surface before they show externally. This is how lasting transformation forms. Not by interruption, but by reorientation. Many people miss this moment because they are waiting for silence. They overlook stability. They overlook the calm that allows them to pause before spiraling. That pause is strength. That pause is evidence that something new is taking shape inside you. The mind is learning that it does not need to dominate to keep you safe. It is learning to follow instead of lead. The subtle signs. God is already strengthening you. Strength does not always announce itself with intensity. Often it arrives so quietly that you almost miss it. You are looking for a dramatic shift, a sudden confidence, a complete disappearance of bad thoughts. but I work in ways that restore you from the inside out. One of the first signs of strength is not power, but stability. You notice that the thoughts still come, yet they no longer knock you down as easily. What once sent you into a spiral now pauses. That pause is not accidental. It is evidence that something inside you is changing. You may notice that you respond differently to pressure. Situations that once triggered fear now create reflection instead. You do not react as fast. You breathe before you answer. You feel emotions without drowning in them. This does not mean you are indifferent. It means you are grounded. Strength is not emotional numbness. It is emotional regulation rooted in trust. When my strength is at work, your inner world becomes less fragile, even when circumstances remain the same. Another subtle sign is the return of clarity. Not perfect clarity, but enough to make decisions without panic. You stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios all the time. You begin to sense when a thought does not deserve your attention. Discernment sharpens quietly. You do not need to fight every thought because you recognize which ones carry no truth. That recognition is strength. It shows that your mind is no longer ruling unchecked. You may also notice moments of peace appearing without effort, short moments, sometimes unexpected. While walking, resting, or doing something ordinary, the noise fades for a second. Those moments matter. They are not random. They are reminders that peace is becoming accessible again. I'm retraining your nervous system to feel safe in stillness, and when safety returns, strength follows naturally. Do not dismiss these signs because they seem small. Growth that lasts is rarely loud. If you measure progress only by how quiet your mind becomes, you will overlook how steady your heart is becoming. Strength is already working in you, even now. And what is forming beneath the surface will soon become visible in how you live, decide, and trust. Learning to rest mentally without losing spiritual authority. Rest has been misunderstood for too long. You have been taught, directly or indirectly, that if you rest mentally, you risk becoming passive, careless, or spiritually weak. So you stay alert. You keep thinking, analyzing, preparing. You believe that constant mental activity equals responsibility. But what you call responsibility has slowly become strain. And strain erodes authority. Authority is not sustained by tension. It is sustained by alignment. Mental rest does not mean disengaging from life. It means releasing the illusion that everything depends on your vigilance. When you refuse to rest, you are not being faithful. You are being fearful. Fear convinces the mind that if it stops working, something bad will happen. That belief keeps you trapped in a cycle of inner pressure. True authority does not come from being constantly alert. It comes from knowing who is leading. And when I am leading, you can rest without losing ground. I never asked you to carry the weight of tomorrow in your thoughts. I never asked you to replay yesterday endlessly. Those habits do not protect you. They exhaust you. When you rest mentally, you are not abandoning responsibility. You are repositioning it. You are saying that your strength comes from trust, not from overthinking. That shift restores authority because authority flows from confidence, not control. Notice how the mind resists rest at first. It feels uncomfortable. Thoughts rush in, demanding attention. This does not mean rest is wrong. It means the mind has been trained to stay active. With time, rest becomes familiar. The mind learns that it does not need to guard every outcome. That is when authority returns naturally. You speak with clarity. You decide without panic. You act without inner conflict. Spiritual authority is not loud. It is steady. It does not need to prove itself. It does not rush. When you rest, you are not becoming weaker. You are becoming anchored, and an anchored mind cannot be easily shaken. This is why rest is not optional. It is essential. It protects your discernment, it preserves your strength, and it allows your inner world to reflect the peace I have already given you. Breaking the habit of letting thoughts define your future. For a long time, You have allowed your thoughts to predict what comes next. A fear appears and suddenly it feels like a warning. A doubt surfaces and it feels like a conclusion. Without realizing it, you begin living according to mental projections instead of truth. This is how the future becomes narrow, not because opportunities disappear, but because expectation shrinks. When thoughts define the future, hope becomes conditional and courage becomes fragile. Thoughts are powerful because they repeat, not because they are accurate. When the same idea plays over and over, the mind mistakes familiarity for truth. You begin to assume that what you think now is what will always be. That assumption quietly shapes decisions, relationships, and spiritual confidence. You avoid risk. You delay action. You settle for survival instead of growth. This is not wisdom. It is fear dressed as caution. I want you to understand something important. The future does not respond to your thoughts. It responds to alignment. When you allow negative thoughts to script tomorrow, you step out of trust and into control. Control always limits vision. Trust expands it. The moment you stop letting your mind narrate what has not happened, space opens. Possibility returns. You remember that I am not bound by patterns, history, or your internal dialogue. Breaking this habit does not require you to predict better outcomes. It requires you to stop predicting altogether. You do not need to know how everything will unfold. You need to know who is walking with you. When that becomes clear, the future stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like movement. You no longer need certainty to move forward. You move from faith, not foresight. Strength grows when you refuse to let temporary thoughts write permanent stories. You begin responding to the present instead of rehearsing the future. This brings energy back. This brings clarity back. And most importantly, it restores hope without conditions. Your future is not fragile, it is guided. And when you trust that, the grip of negative thoughts weakens naturally. Reclaiming control of the mind through daily surrender. Control is not reclaimed by tightening your grip. It is reclaimed by releasing it intentionally. For a long time, you have tried to manage your mind through effort, discipline, and constant correction. You believed that if you stayed alert enough, prayed hard enough, thought carefully enough, you could prevent the chaos from returning. But that approach only kept you locked in vigilance. Daily surrender works differently. It does not exhaust you, it steadies you. Surrender is not a one-time decision. It is a posture you return to again and again, especially when the mind tries to take over. Each day brings new thoughts, new pressures, new uncertainties. Trying to dominate them all will drain you. But surrender teaches the mind a new pattern. Instead of reacting automatically, you pause. You acknowledge what is happening inside you without judgment. You stop arguing with yourself. And in that pause, authority shifts. Daily surrender looks simple, but it is powerful. It is the choice to bring your thoughts into my presence instead of wrestling with them alone. You do not analyze them endlessly. You do not push them away aggressively. You offer them. That act interrupts the cycle of self-control and replaces it with trust. Over time, the mind learns that it does not need to be in charge. It learns to follow instead of lead. This is how control is restored in a healthy way, not by suppression, but by alignment. You stop being ruled by impulse, fear, or mental noise. You become responsive instead of reactive. Decisions feel clearer. Emotions feel less overwhelming. You begin to notice space between a thought and your response. That space is freedom. That space is strength working quietly. Consistency matters more than intensity here. You do not need dramatic moments every day. You need presence. Each time you surrender, even briefly, you weaken old patterns and strengthen new ones. The mind is reshaped gradually, not through pressure, but through repetition, rooted in trust. This is how peace becomes familiar instead of temporary. When God's strength becomes greater than your thoughts. There comes a moment when you realize something has shifted. The thoughts that once dominated your inner world no longer carry the same authority. They may still appear, but they no longer define your state of being. They no longer decide your peace. This is not because you learned how to think better, but because you learned where your strength truly comes from. My strength does not erase your humanity. It anchors it. When my strength becomes greater than your thoughts, you stop living from reaction. You stop bracing for impact. You stop measuring your spiritual life by how calm or noisy your mind feels on a given day. You begin to live from trust. And trust changes everything. It changes how deeply fear can reach you. It changes how long doubt can stay. It changes how much power a thought is allowed to have before it passes. This is not a sudden transformation that happens overnight. It is a quiet authority that grows over time. You notice that your inner world feels less fragile. You are no longer afraid of your thoughts because you know they are not in control. You have learned to rest without guilt, to surrender without fear, to pause without panic. And in that space, my strength holds you steady, not because life became easier, but because you became anchored. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are no longer trying to prove your faith through effort. You are walking with me instead of running ahead of me. That alignment is strength. That alignment is peace. The mind no longer needs to shout because it knows it is not alone. It knows it is not responsible for carrying everything. It knows where safety lives. Listen to me closely now. You are not defined by the thoughts you have had. You are not limited by the battles you have faced in your mind. You are not behind. You are being strengthened in ways that last. My strength is not temporary relief. It is a foundation, and that foundation does not shake when thoughts come and go. This is where you stand now, not perfect, not finished, but grounded. And from this place, nothing in your mind has the power to conquer you again. I am with you, and my strength in you is greater than anything that tries to rise against you.